What a way to start my morning with the second episode of Tales of the Jedi, which, as good as the first episode was, this second episode was even better. Like, I feel like, especially when it comes to the art style, if you grew up watching the Clone Wars, even if you didn't I didn't grow up watching the Clone Wars, but I've watched the Clone Wars since that first animated film all those years ago. And it's been really cool to watch the animation style evolve over the years because it's become this, like, sort of realistic, stylized thing that just looks really, really well done. And I'm just really glad to see a show like this being put together in such a way because this opening shot we get is just absolutely breathtaking. And it just really did strike home how far that animation has come since the first film came out years and years and years ago. But it's also really cool to get a couple of our favorite characters immediately recognizable as soon as we see them on the screen, which is Count Dooku and his Padawan Qui-Gon Jinn. And this opening shot as they're coming into this planet on this ship that just looks amazing. And it's a repeat of the opening sequence for the Phantom Menace, essentially, where, they're coming in here to resolve some type of a situation. And we have the Master telling the Jedi, the apprentice, hey, man, look, be calm, be cool. We don't want things to get out of hand down there. You know, it's a tense and difficult situation in there. So very, very cool way to open the sequence. Um, I know it's the same animation style as the first episode, but this one pulled me in way more, and I don't know why. But the difference here is that in the first episode, we have a very vibrant, green, lush, mountainous village landscape where everything is full of life and everything else. And then here, it's the color grading is it's just stark. It's dark. The planet, the music, everything's desolate. There's ruined droids everywhere, wasteland everywhere, a rundown town. So it's such a contrast in comparison to the first episode where everything was like life, and this is all like not life. So they're meant to be showcasing the fact that this is not a nice place to be, and it establishes that very much so in the early shots here in this episode. They wander into town. Silence greets them. Finally, there's a dog barking, and the owner pulls it inside. And then, as Qui-Gon starts to introduce themselves, shuts the door in their face, and everyone starts shuttering the windows, and no one, it appears, wants to talk to them for any reason. As they move deeper into town, all the villagers are looking on suspiciously from those shuttered windows until finally they reach this dive cantina where there's a handful of people inside. And I love when they get in because Count Dooku's first words are, "Where is the child?" And I was immediately transported to the Mandalorian. Show me the baby. But of course, here it's a little bit different. While the words are reminiscent of the Mandalorian, here it has another meaning because apparently someone is holding the senator's son prisoner. So there's a kidnapping apparently. And when they're asking for more information, the villagers are like, "Why should we tell you?" And Dooku says, "Allow me to make my intentions clear." "Jedi," the person replies. And he replies back, "We are here to help resolve the situation." But the villagers don't seem to be buying it. I guess the mindset here is that the Jedi are only here to resolve the situation for the senator. So they have to establish that that's not the case. And Qui-Gon very quickly says they're here to resolve the situation for everyone. But faith in the Jedi seems to be really low on this backwater planet. Also, faith in the Senate, which I think is a brilliant way to look at how one of the essences of the prequel trilogy was establishing that the Jedi Order had failed, because it had been so long in the Senate's pocket that it had forgotten how to be, a truly independent force for the people. And so no one really trusts the Jedi because they view the Jedi as the same as you're just here to do the Senate's bidding. And it also goes to show you the level of corruption that has happened with these corrupt senators, in this conglomerate. And when Qui-Gon asks why they don't simply elect a new person if the current senator is such a bad guy as evidenced by the state of the planet, the woman replies that she only wishes it were that simple. And I didn't quite know what she was talking about until she offered. I apologize. This is what happens. Gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning every day. Um, when she offers to show them where the child is, and Qui-Gon replies in surprise, he's like, "You're one of the kidnappers?" And then everyone in the tavern stands up, and Dooku goes, "They all are." And you realize that the whole town has kidnapped the senator's son. So apparently, no one likes the guy. And this is what happens when people have been run out the line to their last drop. Desperate times call for desperate measures. So when they get into the barn and they're questioning the kid, it very quickly is established he doesn't feel threatened by his situation. He realizes that these people are in dire situations, and when he's asked how his ordeal has been, he replies to Qui-Gon that this is nothing compared to the conditions that these people are living in. How could my father have let it got to this point? And he wasn't aware that they lived like this because he's rarely been out of the capital and usually only in Coruscant. So he doesn't blame the people at all. He blames his father for this situation. And then as they're discussing things, here comes the senator outside with armed soldiers, and turns out that one of the villagers gave them up in exchange for food. And turns out that the woman who's leading the mob doesn't blame her at all. She's like, it's, you know, when people are hungry, they do desperate things. So I think for me, the most interesting thing here is we're getting a glimpse of Count Dooku before he fell to the dark side. He very clearly won't hand over this young man to the father, the senator. And when he's pressured on it, he tells the senator, "Our investigation is not yet complete." And this pisses off the senator because he's like, "Who are you to stand in my way? What investigation? They've kidnapped my son." And they move to take matters into their own hand. They're going to fire on the villagers. The villagers are going to defend themselves. And meanwhile, the Jedi are just standing here passively, but refusing to step aside. And this is when the senator literally says, "Step aside. You serve the Senate." And Count Dooku replies with a brilliant line. He says, "No, Senator. We serve the people of the Republic." And I went, man, I really wish the police forces of the world actually understood that, because too many of them serve these corrupt governments when they realize that our, taxes pay your salaries. Like, you're supposed to be, public servants. But it's a good glimpse into a man who realizes the flaws in the system and at least hasn't yet been corrupted and still stands for what the Jedi are supposed to stand for, which I think goes to show you why Qui-Gon became the man he was, because he was trained by Dooku. And then, the lightsabers, Senator's been attacked, there's a battle, which is really fun. You notice that the Jedi are only defending, not attacking. Eventually, almost all of the local villagers are taken out or wounded, and the senator then threatens to destroy the whole town and make an example of it. And he says, "None shall defy me, not even you." And he's threatening, and Dooku loses his cool. So it's not the moment that Dooku falls, but this is obviously it's when he snaps, because he reaches out and force chokes the senator. And then as Qui-Gon is like, "Master, what are you doing?" He literally force pushes Qui-Gon into the barn wall, and then starts working his way towards the senator, like deflecting blaster bolts while the whole time choking him. Qui-Gon runs into the barn, sets the kid free, and says, "Hurry, save your father!" And then, as they come running out, you see Count Dooku, like, literally looming over this fallen senator, force choking him to death, muttering, "Corruption like yours must be eradicated." So this is brilliant because it's the beginning of the fall for the Count, and um, yeah. So at the end of the day, Qui-Gon and the kid get there in time. Dooku snaps out of it and realizes how close he came to screwing things up. Um, and we get a glimpse of a good guy doing bad things for the right reasons, and it's the beginning of his fall to the dark side. It's really interesting when um, uh, they're asking about, I wonder if any meaningful change will come from any of this. And when Qui-Gon asks Dooku, "Why did you take matter? Is that why you took matters into your own hands?" Dooku replies, "Your actions saved many lives today," which means he recognizes that he could have, screwed things up majestically, but that Qui-Gon kept him from doing so. And he tells Qui-Gon that he's a much wiser man than him. And then we have a brilliant fade to black as the episode comes to an end. So I think for me, this was really a much for me personally, as fun as the first episode was, oh, it's Ahsoka Tano, yay! This was a much cooler episode from a storyline development standpoint because we're getting backstory of Count Dooku and Qui-Gon Jinn, which I think is cool. And now I'm really interested in seeing what the rest of well, there's only 6 episodes here, so it's not like we're diving into a 20 episode season like Clone Wars. But it's cool to get these little snippets of backstory. So like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this episode. Support the channel on these videos. You can do super thanks. Join as a member. There's a Patreon page. We'll see everybody in the next one. May the Force be with you.